Leo Kurth, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
You look very festive.
Thank you. So did you before you got changed. You had a lovely sparkly gold dress
I know,
on.
I should have kept it on now.
You look fantastic.
But unfortunately, because it's so warm in here, unfortunately, it would have ended up with the shoulder sweat, and that's really unpleasant.
Too much information.
You wouldn't have wanted to see that. Right. So welcome. Nice to see you both.
Thanks.
Good. Right. So I'm going to start with you, Calvin. So what do you make of this? There's this whole... The Science Museum have now been told to take down something that shows X and Y chromosomes, which scientifically is fact, right?
Well, I loved your monologue where you said it's the pursuit of knowledge through evidence, and that's exactly what science should be. This idea that they've been forced, first of all, have they been forced, or have they chosen to remove this based on a complaint? And if they have, why, based on one complaint, have they removed an entire category of science from their museum? That, to me, shows weakness and cowardice. They should say, this is fact, here is the evidence, review it, challenge it if you don't agree with it, but we're not going to take it down just because you find it offensive. What's that about? I could say, I find the car part of the museum offensive. Are they going to suddenly remove all of the automobile industry? It's illogical. It doesn't make any sense. This whole idea that feelings replace facts is nonsensical. We need to get past that point and return to good old-fashioned logic.
Well, I suspect they may have seen what happened to Kathleen Stott and thought twice about it.
Well, yeah, this is why, I agree with Calvin, but and I agree with you, but, I feel some sympathy for the Science Museum because they're put in an impossible position. They don't want, blue-haired, angry, wokeists coming down and, chaining themselves to the aeroplanes and steam engines and things. But it's ridiculous. It's a science museum, not an ideology museum. So it follows the science, objective, provable, evidence-based fact. And it's looking at sex and not gender. Gender's a social construct. Sex is a biological reality. So people can change their gender, but they can't change their biological sex. And that shouldn't be a controversial thing to say.
This is, though. What is gender? What is it?
Well, gender's it's based. It's got its roots in biological sex, obviously, but it's less, clear cut.
So you're saying that gender is sort of fluid, because there's all this gender fluidity, but you might say that you're a different gender, but your physiology will remain exactly the same.
So you can be biologically...
You can say whatever you like.
So you can be biologically female and identify as a man, present as a man, but you'll still have ovaries. So, your biological sex doesn't just vanish like that when you change your gender.
So you can't change your gender, but you're saying you can change your...
No, you can.
You can change your gender, but not your sex.
Yeah.
So what is gender?
So gender is a sort of made-up thing based on reality.
Well, then you said reality, though, based on reality.
Yeah, it's obviously based on reality. Most people's gender aligns with their biological sex. But then for some people it doesn't. And for some people that's because of mental illness or body dysmorphia or whatever. Yeah. But for some people it is because they're best placed transitioning to the other gender and living.
And how do we find that? How do we find out if actually it's a mental illness and these people need support?
Well, or
they need some physical alterations to their body.
This is why the government's recent proposals to ban conversion therapy are worrying, because they'll stop any sort of talking therapy around it, and instead the sort of gender ideologues who say that anybody who thinks that if you're a woman and you're attracted to other women, it's like, oh, you must be a man, and
right,
they funnel them into this industry that's exploding, this gender transition industry. So in America, it's gone from one gender clinic to over 50 gender clinics.
So it's a money-making business.
Space of time.
And
making a lot of money.
A lot of people who are regretting the transition now, aren't we? But I still don't get the crux of it. What is gender? Because people saying, I want to live as a man, what does that mean? Does that mean male stereotypes of...
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Do you think,
what's to stop a woman living that life without changing the physicality?
Some people do live that life without changing their physicality.
I still cannot comprehend what...
to me, it's really simple. And maybe I'm just a simple person, but to me, there are two genders. Yes, you can have both chromosomes, you could be intersex, but that's still made out of the two genders that we know of. And if you feel that you're something else, then to me, that's fair enough. If you want me to call you whatever name it is or whatever you say I should call you. But for me, I'm not going to follow your delusion that you are a female when you're actually a man. That's how I feel.
I'm absolutely fine with trans, as long as they put the effort in. I've got no time for the ones that don't even shave. If you're just walking around with a beard and calling yourself a woman, oh, come on. Nobody's buying that. So, I mean, as long as you're putting the effort in, I'm absolutely fine to call you whatever you want. But the one thing I don't want to do is do any homework. All this gender stuff is so complicated.
It's so complicated.
I've already got enough stuff going on. I've got all these like bills to pay and stuff. I don't have time to like read up on 348 different genders.
Where do you think it's coming from?
So you two are very polite in that you'll say you'll address people with whatever pronouns they want and call them a man if they want to say that they're a man, etc. That's very kind of you, very compassionate. But it doesn't just affect that person, does it? It affects everyone else. So, for example, if a man identifies as a woman, and so even if they put the effort in, they're still not a woman, but they're allowed in female-only spaces. They're alled to go. If they,
well, no, I wouldn't go that far.
They could end up in a female-only prison.
No,
and then we're seeing female-only sports.
No.
We're seeing sports women getting really physically damaged because men are physically superior to women.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's inappropriate.
Yeah, I mean, obviously in sports, there's an argument to be made for limiting, especially in contact sports and combat sports.
And strength-based sports as well, like Laurel Hubbard, who went in for the... I mean, she didn't actually win, which was quite interesting. But the point is that she was able to enter it. Yeah. And this is unfair to the women who are actually there, who are women.
But I think when it comes to bathrooms, I mean, this is why there needs to be free debate around this. And the debate is so often shut down because any questions are seen as criticism and are seen as an attack on transgender people. And it's not an attack. It's just there are some instances of men identifying as women and getting access to, women's prisons. Going into women's prisons.
Again, that's ridiculous. Who on earth would think that would be a good idea? But a man who still has all the tackles there to then say, I'm a woman, I'm going to enter into women-only prison.
But some genuine transgender people do still have the tackle.
Yeah, but that's fair enough. But then you can't say that you want to enter into a female prison because of that.
No, I think
has to be the reality.
It's a difficult.
Where do you draw the line, Leo? Where is the line drawn? Because Nana's line makes sense to me. Physicality makes a bit of sense. I don't agree with it, but it makes sense.
I can tell you exactly where I draw the line. If they're hot, they're a woman. There's a hotness rule.
No.
Not all women are hot.
Well, that's subjective, isn't it? It depends. That's subjective.
So in fact, those women
don't get
to be women.
No, hold on. That's subjective. There's somebody, what you think is gorgeous, somebody else might think different.